Hey, welcome back. It's Jason Walter here. Hope you guys had an awesome weekend, by the way. In today's housing market update, I'm going to share a new report from Realtor.com. I'm laughing because it only took me 10 tries to say that. This is the latest report from Realtor.com for the week ending July 2nd. And in this report here, they say that housing inventory is increasing greatly compared to 1 year ago. However, I'm going to be sharing some stats regarding this big increase of housing inventory ever since the first of the year, because this is a trend or a stat that I have not seen anywhere else. This is based on my own knowledge regarding the housing market and my analysis regarding the latest housing market trends. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive right into the video here and let's get started here. So again, this is for the week ending July 2nd, and this is according to Realtor.com as of July 7th of this year. And it says here that anyone who bought a house before the last couple of years will note that we had a lack of houses for sale across the United States. But June's progress this year is a convincing step back in that direction, and this first week of July is building on that momentum. And again, I have a lot to share regarding housing inventory and more on that here in just a little bit. So we are seeing housing inventory increase this year. We're also seeing more new listings hit the market. And it says here that buyers are likely to remain cost sensitive though. In other words, because of spiking mortgage rates and of course because of rising home prices, it's becoming more or less affordable to buy a house. So we have these affordability challenges across the United States right now. And because buyers are likely to remain more cost sensitive, this could position condos and townhouses as a good and affordable choice for younger households hoping to buy for the first time. So I actually bought my first property. My first property was actually a condo as well. And that was because I couldn't afford at the time to buy a single family house. But I would say that for people looking to buy a house right now, I would say just don't buy just to buy. If you want to buy a single family house and you can't afford that, it doesn't mean you should be buying a condo. Of course, there's nothing wrong with buying a condo or a townhouse, and it is more affordable than buying a single family home, for example. In any case, let's talk about home prices across the United States right now. So according to Realtor.com, the median listing price, again, this is the median asking price for a newly listed house, that actually grew by 18.3% over the last year. And it says here the typical asking price of houses for sale was higher than 1 year ago by double digits for a 29th consecutive week. However, though, the key word here is 1 year ago. So yes, we've had double digit price gains compared to 1 year ago for the 29th consecutive week. However, though, we're seeing fluctuations on a month-to-month basis, though. And they go on to say the following here, though. This week's growth rate picked up after several weeks of steady to slower year-over-year growth. And we expect the data quirks around the Independence Day holiday as playing a role. So in other words, they're saying that this 18.3% increase compared to 1 year ago may be influenced by the holiday July 4th. And because of this, they expect home price growth to ease back lower in the weeks ahead and continue to slow in the second half of 2022. And I know I mentioned this quite often on the channel here, but during the second half of the year, we tend to have a slowdown in our housing market each and every year. This is what we call our seasonality or housing market, which basically starts with a slowdown or a plateau effect in the summer months of each year. Therefore, it would be entirely normal to see a pullback in home prices and of course home sales in the second half of this year. But in my personal opinion, we're going to be seeing that coupled with a big decrease in home buying demand, which is going to cause a big pullback in active listing prices and home sales in the months to come. Of course, I don't have a crystal ball. My crystal ball broke a long time ago, so time will tell, right? But they go on to say the following in this report here. Home price growth continues to set a new record high of $450,000 in June. Again, this is the median asking price for a house in June, reaching an all-time record high of $450,000. And they go on to say that basically we have a peak on our housing market regarding home prices around this time of year. Around in June and July of each year, we tend to have a peak in home prices across the United States here. But they are calling for an ease in home price growth in the second half of the year. And here's an update regarding new listings as well as active listing inventory. In other words, housing supply. So new listings, which is a measure of sellers putting their houses up for sale, actually grew 8% compared to 1 year ago. And it says here strong market conditions have prompted more homeowners to sell houses this year compared to last year. And again, I'm going to be sharing some long-term trends we're seeing right now regarding home prices, new listings, and active inventory here in just a little bit. And speaking of active inventory, which of course is the total number of houses for sale, actually grew, rising 29% above 1 year ago. More homeowners are taking advantage of still strong housing market conditions for sellers, just as higher mortgage rates and home prices are causing many buyers to reconsider their moving plans. As a result, the number of houses for sale is climbing rapidly. Again, I have some very alarming stats regarding this big increase of housing supply this year. So more on that here in just a little bit. Inventory was roughly even with last year's levels at the beginning of May, and the gains have mounted each week. This is worth mentioning again because at the beginning of May of this year, we basically had the same number of houses for sale compared to the prior year. But now jump forward to basically a month and a half, we've had an increase of 29% compared to 1 year ago. So it's very true that ever since the beginning of May, we've seen big increases of active inventory this year. And here's something they mentioned regarding housing supply compared to June of 2019, because right now we have roughly less than half of the housing supply compared to June 2019. But here's why I'm largely going to be ignoring 2019's levels for housing inventory, because the trajectory of housing supply has been increasing greatly this year. And I know this is different than what I've been telling you guys, but stay with me because I'm going to be showing you regarding inventory changes compared to January 1st of this year. But let's first talk about housing inventory compared to the past few weeks here. So active listings, again, this is housing inventory, up 21% for the week ending June 18th. Again, for the first week of May, this number was 0%, basically on par with last year's levels. Now we're up 21% for this week, then it increased to 25%, and then now for the week ending July 2nd, we're actually up 29% in the number of active listings compared to the same week in 2021. Because these are changes compared to 1 year ago. So in other words, even though we have less houses or far less houses for sale compared to pre-COVID levels back in June of 2019, the trajectory is something we should definitely follow because look at that, an increase of 29% compared to 1 year ago. But have a look at this. So here it is on Uncle Fred's website, and the source here is realtor.com. This is active inventory or housing inventory ever since basically 2016. So we basically reached all-time record lows of housing supply in the US when we had approximately 376,000 houses for sale across the United States in February 2022, which was an all-time record low number. But look at now. Housing supply has been increasing ever since February though. So right now we have approximately 619,000 houses for sale in the US compared to 376,000. So what I've been telling you guys is that, hey, this number is very, very low compared to pre-COVID levels because right now we have 619,000 houses for sale. But back in June of 2019, we had approximately 1.3 million houses. So what I was thinking is that if we want to have a more balanced real estate market, we need housing supply to be close to pre-COVID levels, around 1.3 to 1.4 million houses for sale. However, though, because we had record low levels back in February of this year, if we were to increase that basically by 10 times, so 376 up to approximately 1.3 million, of course, our housing market would crash, right? So in other words, we have to pay very close attention to not just the actual inventory count, but the changes over the past several months here. So here's an Excel file that I actually pulled from Realtor.com's website. This is actually the first download I did on their website. I actually found some trends or long-term trends that they posted regarding home prices, active inventory, days on the market, and the number of new listings. But right now I want to focus on this right here because we're talking about housing inventory. I definitely want you guys to watch this part of the video because it's very, very important. It's also a little bit different than I've been saying here on the channel here. So active inventory, this is the column right here. Again, we're up 29% compared to 1 year ago. But as you can see here, for the first week of May, we were basically flat compared to 1 year ago. So in other words, we've seen a strong increase over the past several weeks here. But let's go back to February 2022. So again, we had approximately 376,000 houses for sale, and now we have 619,000. So that's an increase of 243,000. Doesn't sound like a lot, but percentage-wise, have a look at this. a 65% increase over the last 4 months, which is pretty insane. And by the way, this section right here is not from Realtor.com. This is just based on my own analysis. But take a look at that, a 65% increase of housing supply since February of this year. And because of this big increase of 65% of housing supply compared to February of 2022 is one reason why I believe that we're going to see a softening in home prices in the months to come, because this is a giant increase of housing supply in a very short period of time. Here's something also worth mentioning regarding the trends in housing supply over the past several years. So again, this is Uncle Fred's website. Again, an increase of 65% ever since February of this year. But look back in 2019. So February 2019, we had approximately 1.2 million houses for sale. And then in June, we had approximately just over 1.3 million. So in other words, less than a 10% increase of housing supply in the same time period, 4 months, as this year. So to summarize this for you guys, because housing supply has increased so much this year, the trajectory is something we should definitely follow, because even though historically speaking, we have a very low amount of houses for sale, again, 619,000 houses for sale. So even though this number is still historically low, we don't need this number to be up to 1.3 million houses for sale in order to cause a housing market slowdown. And believe it or not, the stats actually support that. Have a look at this upload again from Realtor.com. Again, active listing prices actually up 18% for the most recent week. And as you can see here, the median listing price compared to 1 year ago has been on an upward trend this year. Again, up 18% compared to 1 year ago. One thing I want to say regarding this is that active listing prices is not sold prices. This is just the median listing price or asking price that homeowners are asking for their houses, not sold prices. But interesting to see the upward trajectory over the past several months here. And let's have a look at housing supply. And by the way, one reason I'm sharing this Excel spreadsheet with you guys is because on their weekly trends, or their weekly housing market updates on Realtor.com's website, they only share year-to-date numbers and also over the past few weeks. So I really want to share long-term trends and not these short-term trends to really get an idea about how our housing market is really shifting here. So again, as of May 7th, we had basically the same number of houses for sale compared to 1 year ago, and has been increasing greatly ever since then. Have a look ever since January 29th. On January 29th, we basically had 28% less houses for sale compared to the same week in 2021. But ever since this week, the gap between this year compared to last year has been on a downward trend. In other words, we're seeing more active listing inventory compared to 1 year ago, basically starting on May 14th. But a very remarkable turnaround, because basically, 6 months ago, we were down 28% from 1 year ago. Now we're up 29%. Also, have a look at this, because 1 year ago, active inventory was down 40% compared to 1 year ago. So 1 year ago, we were down 40% compared to the same week in 2020. Now we're up 29%, which is pretty remarkable. Okay, let's talk about days on the market. And days on the market is a time period when a home seller lists their house for sale to when they ultimately accept an offer from a home buyer and the house ultimately closes or closes escrow, 30 to 60 days later. So days on the market is that time period. So right now, houses are selling approximately 2 days faster compared to 1 year ago, which of course means that houses are still selling very quickly. But take a look at this, because ever since basically February 19th of this year, the gap between this year and last year has been narrowing, because on the 19th of February, houses were selling 20 days faster compared to 1 year ago. And the decrease compared to 1 year ago has been on a downward trajectory, because now houses are selling only 2 days faster than 1 year ago. So in other words, the days on the market has been decelerating ever since the middle of February of this year. Another way to look at this is this, because back in this week, houses sold 32% faster compared to 1 year ago. Now it's only 5% faster compared to a year ago. And of course, the reason why we're seeing houses sitting in the market a little bit longer compared to February of this year is because of active inventory. Again, up 65% since February, which is absolutely insane. Of course, it's giving more home buyers more options. And of course, because of that, days on the market is not as fast as it was towards the beginning of this year. On top of that, what we're also seeing right now is the number of new listings increasing compared to 1 year ago. So the most recent data we have right now, the number of new listings is actually up 8% compared to 1 year ago. And this has been increasing ever since the week ending June 4th of this year. And this has been increasing fairly significantly over the past several weeks as well, because for this week, we're up 2%. Now we're up 8% from a year ago. And have a look at this, because looking back 1 year ago, for the week ending July 3rd, look at that. The median listing price was only up 10% compared to a year ago. So right now, listing prices are far higher compared to 2021. But look at this, active listing count, again, up 29% right now. But 1 year ago, they were down 40%. And this is why houses were selling very quickly, selling 22 days faster compared to the same week in 2020. And now we're only at 2 days faster compared to this week right here. So days on the market for the first week of 2021 was down 37% from a year ago. Now we're only down 5%. Also, the number of new listings actually were down 1% from 2020. Now we're up 8%. All right, just summarize this for you guys, because I know this is a lot of data to share in today's video. I want to give you guys my honest analysis based on this. So again, active listing prices are increasing greatly, really ever since the start of the year. What I would imagine is that because we're seeing this huge increase of active listing, again, up 65% in the past 4 months, which is absolutely insane, we're going to be seeing a softening in home prices due to two factors. One, seasonality, because listing prices and home prices tend to, again, plateau or slightly decrease in the second half of the year. That's entirely normal. But because we're seeing this big pullback in housing demand and then also a big increase of active listings, we're going to see this number here start to decrease fairly significantly in the second half of this year, in my personal opinion. Also, because we're seeing this uptick of supply, days on the market should be increasing in the second half of this year as well. That would be entirely normal to see that, given the fact that a lot of home buyers are backing out of this market. And of course, there's a lot more options for people who are looking for houses to buy right now. Also, it's worth mentioning here that new listings are only up 8% compared to the same time period 1 year ago, a very small percentage. So what's really telling to me is that we're not seeing this increase of housing supply due to a large amount of houses being listed for sale, because new listings are only up 8% compared to 1 year ago. So in my personal opinion, we're seeing this huge increase of housing supply due to home buyers backing out of this housing market, or in other words, home buying demand decreasing. So in other words, we're seeing fewer home buyers looking to buy a house right now, and that's causing housing supply to increase this year. But what do you guys all think about this? I'd love to hear from you guys. Please comment below. Hope you guys got a lot of value out of today's video. If you did, please hit the like button. I greatly appreciate that. Hope you guys have an awesome day. Look forward to seeing you on the next video.